All right, so it's Truck Talk with Casey. So, what got you into fertilization in the first place?
I just love being outside. It's hard for me to sit in an office all day. I get stir crazy. The older I get, the less that's true, but I just like being outside. The fresh air, the sunshine.
So, when did you actually start doing fertilization?
I've been doing fertilization for almost a decade now. I started at True Green as what they call a hose jockey. I drove a pickup truck with a 300-gallon tank, and I drug a hose across customer lawns all day, squirting and ferting.
So, what's the biggest, either technological difference or quality of life improvement or whatever that you've seen in the 10 years that you've been in the industry?
Oh, there's definitely some technological improvements that I've seen. I mean, the technology all comes from an agricultural base. So everything that we're getting now, farmers have been using for 5 to 10 years. But they adapt it to a smaller scale and make it turf usable. The machinery is definitely improved. The steel green unit that we're using today is leaps and bounds above what guys were using 5 to 10 years ago. The technology on them, the calibrations on them, so much more accurate. The controls are much nicer. The machines are way safer.
What's your least favorite part about fertilization?
Customers who don't know a lot about the lawn, that it poses a problem. I like to educate my customers, so I guess you could say that's one of my least favorite things, and one of my favorite things is dealing with a customer who doesn't know anything about the lawn, but then educating them to where they do know about the lawn.
So unrealistic expectations.
Yeah, that would be a good answer.
No, that makes sense. I think one of the things that we discussed earlier in the year is timing is everything.
Oh, absolutely.
You can't get rid of crabgrass in the summer. And typically most people start using their lawns in the summer.
Right.
So that's when you have a big boom of come out and get rid of this crabgrass for me.
Yep. And
it's the wrong time of year. And so people just not having an understanding or the education on what, when, and how, I'm sure causes a lot of headaches.
It does.
So that makes sense.
And it's funny you say something about timing being crucial. Everything is weather dependent, and the timing that we had last year might not necessarily be the timing that we have this year because the weather fluctuates.
Well, I think this year is a great example. There was still snow on the ground when round one was supposed to start.
Right.
And that persisted for 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, it gave us a late start. Then it was soggy and cold.
Yeah.
And we really couldn't get on turf, so it kind of put everything back. And now we're in a position trying to go into round 2, and things are kind of delayed. But
well, this is typically still round 1 time right now.
It is. We're in that transition zone.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on who you're with,
Mm-hmm.
Lawn Pride is probably putting down their second application by now.
Mm-hmm.
True Green, I don't know when they got their start this year, but they typically start right at the end of February. And because they run a lot of hose reels, you can get out and walk on a lawn that you can't run a machine on. So they can put down product when it's wetter. So
do you think it's as effective to put down product when there's freshly melted snow?
No, and that's one of the reasons I was excited to come to work with Matt and build this program, is because I saw what a lot of companies do wrong, or maybe not necessarily wrong, but not as effective as it should be, or maybe not a best practice. And I took that and kind of changed that up to where, our program, we're following best practices. We want to make sure that, we're the highest quality lawns on the block. When I put that Green's Lawn Care flag at the front of a lawn, I want people to drive by and say, "Oh, that lawn stands out." You can tell there's something different about that lawn.
That's the one thing that I think is really interesting about some of the feedback I've heard from some of those major national providers, that it's their office is a very sales goal oriented office, whereas ours is a results driven office.
It is, yeah.
So I think that, there's definitely something to be said for, having viability of continued, business, right? But if you're doing that at the expense of someone, or delivering a substandard or inferior result, then what are you doing?
Yeah, that's my philosophy is, maybe our price point is a little higher, and maybe our profit margin isn't as high as some of these other companies. But if we have the customer base that is dedicated and is spreading the word, none of that's going to matter, because we're going to survive based on customer experience.
Mm-hmm.
And really, in this industry, customer experience is everything. Some of the companies that I've worked for in the past, I would have a customer that was new in the spring, and by fall, they were ready to cancel. And it wasn't necessarily something that I had done wrong. It was just the practices that the company used weren't giving the customer a satisfying experience.
Well, here's a good one for you. I have had a large number of people who have reached out this year that are dissatisfied with their previous service.
Mm-hmm.
It was great the first year. It was a little less good the second year. And last year it was just, I didn't get the results I was looking for. So what do you think the issue is with why a company is able to deliver well in year one, mediocre in year two, and poorly in year three?
Well, I think a lot of that's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on, what the customer had before. If they had not had lawn treatment, obviously you're going to see a bigger result the first year, because you're going to see a lot less weeds. And I think a lot of that also has to do with customer expectation. As a new customer, they're going to come out, they're going to treat you right. They want to, keep that business. But I think they get complacent, and, once season 2 goes by and season 3 goes by, oh, they're my customer now. I don't have to put as much work into keeping that customer. And that's the total opposite of what really needs to happen. You should go out and treat every customer like it's their first time, and you want to deliver that experience that you promised.
So you think the first year improvement is the difference between 0 and 60,
Right.
and then the second year is the difference between 60 and 80.
Right.
Okay. But then when you have someone who, all of a sudden has a lawn full of weeds, there's dandelions everywhere, do you think that's an issue of them maybe not applying the product in the correct quantity, or not rotating products year over year, or?
It could be. Obviously, one of the things that we have to consider when we manage our program is product rotation. If you don't rotate your products, certain weeds and certain insects can build up an immunity to the products you're using. And you have to rotate out to keep that immunity from building up. And it could be that they're just using the same product year after year. Could be that they're not educating their customers on proper cultural practices. A huge portion of lawn care falls on the technician, but another big chunk of proper lawn care falls on the homeowner. Parts that we can't control, like mowing and watering. Those are things that the customer themselves are responsible for. And if you're not teaching your customer how to manage those things properly, you're not going to get the results that you should, because the customer just doesn't know what to do.
Well, ultimately, lawn care is a triangle.
It really is, yeah.
You know, there's the fertilization, weed control aspect. There's the maintenance and mowing and watering aspect, and then there's the Mother Nature aspect.
Right.
So we can only control a third, or we can only influence a third, really. The other 2/3 are, on them and out of anyone's hands.
Right.
So I think everything when it comes to satisfying customers with lawn care, right, boils down ultimately to expectations versus reality.
It really does. That and just customer relationship. If you build a relationship with your customer, and they know who you are, they see the same technician time after time after time, it makes a huge difference in the customer relationship that you have, and they're more apt to follow your advice and to give you that leeway when things don't go precisely right. A drought or a cold snap or whatever may happen that kind of throws things out of kilter. The customer's a lot more forgiving if they know you and they know that you're gonna back up what you say and that you're not feeding them a line just to cover your butt.
Mm-hmm. I think it's hugely telling that we, in general, just will not seed a yard in the spring.
Yeah, it's a huge no-no. A lot of companies will, just because they want the revenue, but you're talking about a difference of 70 to 80% success rate from a spring seeding to a fall seeding, and that's a huge number. That's a huge result that the customer is going to see or not see.
So I know that you are a diehard bluegrass fan.
Oh yeah, I love my bluegrass.
So would you suggest bluegrass for the average homeowner who doesn't water their yard?
No, because bluegrass will not stand up to the stress. Unless you're a turf fanatic like myself, the best results are going to come from a blended lawn where you've got a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and very well blended. That way, the lawn overall is going to withstand, more abuse.
Just the largest cross section of conditions.
Right.
You'll have the most green, the furthest at the extreme points of the seasons.
Each grass type has its own positives and negatives, and each one has its own vulnerabilities that it's susceptible to. Bluegrass does not handle heat stress well. It's more susceptible to fungus. If you're not doing the right things, mowing it high, watering it often, treating it with fertilization and weed control like it should be, you're going to see fungal problems. You're going to see brownout. You're going to see dormancy in the summer. Where RTF or turf type tall fescue stands up to those conditions a little bit more. We do see some other issues, with turf type tall fescue. You're seeing leaf spot and brown patch, things like that, that can come during the summer when the lawn's stressed. But all in all, you're still going to have a better appearance with less maintenance.
Sweet.
And it's not significantly less maintenance, just a little less maintenance. But it is a much easier lawn for a customer who's just, here's my lawn, take care of it.
That's good. Anything else you want to add?
No, not really.